Osio, Candice Byrd, and I am a Cherokee storyteller. And today, I will be telling the story of how Spider got the first fire. They say that Sawiawa, a long time ago, half the world was covered in darkness and the other half was covered in light. And the animals on the dark side of the world were cold and couldn't see at night. And so they prayed to Creator, to Unetlanahi, to send them something that would help them get warmer on that side of the world. Well, Unetlanahi talked to the Thunder Boys, and the Thunder Boys decided that they would send a bolt of lightning to a sycamore tree on an island. And when the Thunder Boys hit that sycamore tree, the sycamore tree grew and it glowed with yellow and orange light. It was the first fire ever seen on this earth. And so the animals on the dark side of the world gathered together to hold a council to decide who would go and get that fire from Unetlanahi, who was worthy, who was strong, who was brave to go and get that first fire. Well, the winged ones got together, and the raven decided that he would be the one to go and get that fire. Raven was tall and strong and had a large wingspan. He wasn't the raven that we usually see today. He was colorful. And so Raven flew across the water to that island. And as he peered and he tried to think of a way to try to get that fire, a gust of wind caught up his wings and it blew embers onto his wings and onto his body. And he was singed and he was burned. And so he flew back over to the other side of the world injured, and he told the other animals that he had failed and he could not get that fire. So they decided amongst themselves who would go next, and they decided to send another winged one, and it was the owl. The owl had also a large wingspan and was also strong and tall. And so he flew across the water to the wild sycamore tree, and he was peering down into the smoke to try to see the best way to try to get that fire. And once more, a gust of wind blew embers up into his face. And as the owl rubbed and tried to get those embers out of his face, when he looked up, you could see that he had burned white circles around his eyes, and his eyes had turned red. So he flew back across the waters, hardly able to see. And as he landed, he told the other animals that he also had failed to get the fire. So the animals came together once again and were trying to figure out who was best suited to go and get that fire. They decided amongst themselves the little racer snake would go. The little racer snake glided across the water, and he was looking for an entryway into the sycamore tree. And as the snake raced up into the sycamore tree, another ember flew from the fire, hit his skin, and it rolled all along down his side, burning his skin and charring him black. And so the racer snake got away from that fire, and he ran back across the water to tell the other animals that he too had failed to get the fire. So amongst all the winged animals and all the quadruped animals, none of them could get the fire. And so all the animals were holding another council to try to decide who could still go get the fire, who in the world was worthy to go get this fire. And there was a little voice on the ground, and no one knew where it came from. And this little voice cried out, "Me, send me, I can go get that fire. I know how to get this fire." And the other animals were looking around, and trying to see who had spoken up, who was strong enough to go get this fire. And they looked down on the ground, and they saw a little speck on the ground. And it was Candice, the spider, who stepped forward and said, "I am the one who to go get that fire." And the other animals looked at each other, and they started to laugh at one another. They started to snicker and giggle, and they were thought, the spider isn't strong enough to go get that fire. All these big, strong animals couldn't get that fire. What makes the spider so sure that she can get that fire? And that spider just told them, "You just wait and see. Just watch me. I know how to get that fire." And so the spider spun a small web, making a bowl, and put it on her back. Very carefully, she glided across the water, climbed up into the sycamore tree, took an ember, and plopped it in the bowl on her back. She climbed back down the tree, glided back across the water, And she started moving faster across the water because she could feel that vessel glowing. She could feel that ember from that fire glowing, and it burned a little hole through her vessel, and it burned a little red mark onto her back. And even though she burned herself and that mark remains on her back to this day, she was able to get across the water and meet those animals. And then she was able to scoop that bowl off of her back and present that first ember, that first fire, to the animals and to us, humankind. If you enjoyed today's storytelling, click this link for a cultural craft that you can do at home. Wado.